I never thought I'd be the kind of person sharing this story with strangers on the internet. But here I am, because I need to get this off my chest, and maybe, just maybe, someone out there will understand what I'm going through. My father-in-law got excited while I was bathing him, and what happened next destroyed my marriage, my family, and everything I thought I knew about the people I loved. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and until 6 months ago, I had what everyone considered the perfect life. I lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona, with my husband Michael, our 2 kids, and Michael's father, Robert, who had been living with us for almost a year after suffering a severe stroke that left him partially paralyzed and dependent on constant care. Before you judge me, before you think you know how this story ends, I need you to understand that nothing about this situation is what it seems. If you're already hooked and want to hear the rest, help this channel reach 5,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button right now. Your support means everything to me, and I promise this story is just getting started. It all began on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday morning in March. Michael had left early for a business conference in Dallas, and the kids were at school. I was alone in the house with Robert, which had become routine over the past months. Taking care of my father-in-law had become my full-time job since he came to live with us. The stroke had left him unable to walk properly, with limited mobility on his right side, and he needed help with almost everything, including bathing. At first, we had hired a nurse to come 3 times a week, but the costs were draining our savings, and Michael suggested I could handle it. I loved my father-in-law. He had always been kind to me, treated me like the daughter he never had, and I wanted to help. So I agreed, not knowing that this decision would lead to the most confusing and devastating period of my life. That morning, I helped Robert into the bathroom as usual. He was a proud man, 68 years old, and I could see the humiliation in his eyes every time he needed my assistance. I always tried to be professional, clinical even, treating the situation like a medical procedure rather than something intimate. I had helped him hundreds of times by this point, and it had always been fine, awkward, but manageable. But that day was different. As I helped him sit on the shower chair and began washing his back, I noticed he was quieter than usual, almost tense. I asked if he was okay, and he just nodded, but I could feel something had shifted in the air between us. Then it happened. As I moved to wash his chest, I noticed he had become aroused. My heart stopped. I froze completely, the washcloth suspended in midair, not knowing what to do or where to look. Robert's face turned bright red, a mixture of shame and something else I couldn't quite identify. He tried to cover himself with his hands, stammering an apology, saying it was just a physical reaction, that he couldn't control it, that he was so sorry. I mumbled something about it being okay, that these things happen, that it was just biology, but my hands were shaking as I quickly finished, wrapped him in a towel, and practically ran out of the bathroom. I spent the rest of that day in a state of shock, replaying the scene in my mind over and over, trying to convince myself it meant nothing. But something had changed, and I couldn't deny it. The comfortable, familial relationship we'd had felt different now, charged with an awareness that made my skin prickle whenever we were in the same room. And the worst part, the part that fills me with shame even now, was that I couldn't stop thinking about it. If you're still with me, I need to ask you a favor. This channel is trying to reach 5,000 subscribers, and your click on that subscribe button would mean the world. I'm sharing something incredibly personal here, and knowing that people are listening and supporting this journey makes it easier to continue. The next few days were torture. I tried to act normal around Robert, but there was this elephant in the room that neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Michael came back from his conference completely oblivious to the tension in the house. How could I tell him? What would I even say? "Hey honey, your dad got an erection while I was bathing him, and now I can't stop thinking about it." It sounded insane even in my own head. But it got worse. About a week after the incident, I was helping Robert into bed one evening when he grabbed my hand. Not forcefully, but firmly enough to make me stop and look at him. "Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk about what happened." My entire body tensed. Part of me wanted to run, to pretend I hadn't heard him, but another part, a part I'm not proud of, wanted to stay and listen. It wasn't just a physical reaction, he continued, his eyes locked on mine. I've been feeling things for you that I shouldn't feel. Being this close to you every day, having you take care of me, seeing your kindness and patience. Sarah, I've developed feelings for you. The room started spinning. This couldn't be happening. This was my father-in-law, my husband's father, the man who had walked Michael down the aisle at our wedding because Michael's mother had passed away years before. And he was confessing feelings for me. Robert, you can't say these things, I whispered, pulling my hand away. You're confused. The stroke, the medication, the stress of everything. But he shook his head. I'm not confused, Sarah. I've never been more clear about anything in my life. I know it's wrong. I know you're married to my son. I know this is impossible, but I can't keep pretending anymore. And I think you feel something too. Those words hit me like a physical blow, because somewhere deep inside, in a place I didn't want to examine too closely, I knew he was right. Over the months of caring for him, of those intimate moments, of seeing him vulnerable and dependent, something had shifted in me too. It wasn't love, not like what I felt for Michael, but it was something, an attraction, a connection that terrified me. I left his room without another word and locked myself in my bedroom, my heart racing, my mind screaming at me that this was wrong, that I needed to shut this down immediately. But I didn't tell Michael. That was my first real betrayal, not telling my husband that his father had just confessed feelings for me. I told myself I was protecting everyone, that bringing it up would only cause unnecessary pain. But the truth was, I was protecting myself because I didn't want to face what was happening inside me. Please, if this story is resonating with you, help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Click that red subscribe button and be part of this community where we share real stories about real struggles. The next morning, I decided I needed to create distance. I told Michael I thought we should hire the nurse back, that taking care of his father was becoming too much for me. But Michael looked at me with those puppy dog eyes and said our savings were already depleted from the medical bills, and if we hired help again, we'd have to dip into the kids' college fund. He hugged me and thanked me for being so selfless, for taking such good care of his dad, and I felt like the worst person in the world. So I stayed silent and continued the routine. But now every interaction with Robert was loaded with meaning, with unspoken tension, with glances that lasted a second too long. Then came the night that changed everything. It was about 3 weeks after Robert's confession. Michael was working late, and the kids were asleep. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner when I heard a crash from Robert's room. I ran down the hallway and found him on the floor beside his bed, having tried to get up on his own and fallen. He wasn't hurt, but he was upset, frustrated with his limitations, with his dependence, with his body that no longer obeyed him. I helped him back into bed, and as I pulled the covers over him, he started crying. I had never seen Robert cry before. This strong, proud man who had been a firefighter for 30 years, who had raised Michael alone after his wife died, who had always been the pillar of strength in the family, was sobbing like a child. My heart broke for him. I sat on the edge of his bed and took his hand, telling him it was okay, that he was getting stronger every day, that he wouldn't feel this helpless forever. He looked up at me with tears streaming down his face and said, "You're the only good thing in my life right now, Sarah. You're the only reason I want to keep trying." And then he pulled me toward him, not forcefully, but with a gentle tug that I could have easily resisted, but I didn't. I let him pull me closer, and when his lips met mine, I didn't pull away. We kissed, and it was wrong on every level, but it was also tender and desperate and filled with all the loneliness and confusion we'd both been feeling. The kiss lasted maybe 10 seconds before reality crashed back in, and I jumped up, stammering apologies, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This can't happen, Robert. This can never happen again," I said, my voice shaking. He nodded, looking as shocked as I felt, and I ran to my bedroom and spent the next hour sobbing into my pillow, hating myself, questioning everything I thought I knew about who I was. I had just kissed my father-in-law. I had betrayed my husband in the worst possible way, and the worst part was that some small part of me had wanted it. If you're still following this story, please don't forget to subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers. I need your support now more than ever, as I share the most difficult chapter of my life. I should have told Michael right then. I should have confessed everything and dealt with the consequences. But I was a coward. Instead, I avoided Robert completely for the next few days, asking Michael to help with his father's morning routine, claiming I wasn't feeling well. Michael was concerned and sweet, bringing me tea and checking on me, which only made the guilt worse. But I couldn't keep avoiding Robert forever, and eventually, we were alone again. This time, when I went to his room to help him, we both knew we needed to address what had happened. "Sarah," he said before I could speak, "I'm not going to apologize for the kiss because I'm not sorry it happened. But I am sorry for putting you in this position. I know you love Michael. I know you're a good person. And I know this is my fault. I'll find a way to move out. Maybe there's an assisted living facility or—" "No," I interrupted him. "You can't leave. Michael would never forgive me if you left because of something I did." "Something we did," Robert corrected. "This isn't just on you." And that was the moment I made the worst decision of my life. Instead of using that conversation to create boundaries, to recommit to my marriage, to do the right thing, I stepped closer to his bed. "We can't do this," I said, even as my body moved toward him. "I know," he replied, reaching for my hand. "We won't." But we both knew we were lying. Over the next month, Robert and I descended into an affair that I still can't fully explain or justify. It wasn't about sex, though there was physical intimacy, always careful, always mindful of his limitations and of getting caught. It was about connection, about feeling seen and needed in a way I hadn't felt in years. My marriage to Michael had become routine. We were good parents, good roommates, but somewhere along the way, we'd stopped being good lovers or even good friends. We existed side by side, managing our household and raising our kids, but the passion and excitement were long gone. With Robert, everything felt new and intense. He looked at me like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. He listened when I talked about my dreams and fears. He made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. But the guilt was eating me alive. Every time Michael hugged me, every time he told me he loved me, every time he thanked me for taking care of his father, I felt like I was dying inside. Your support right now would mean everything. Please click subscribe and help this channel grow to 5,000 subscribers. Sharing these stories takes courage, and knowing people are listening makes it worthwhile. The affair continued in secret for almost 2 months. We were careful, always waiting until Michael was at work and the kids were at school. We'd have these stolen moments where we'd just hold each other, talk about how impossible the situation was, promise each other we'd end it, and then fall right back into the same pattern the next day. I knew it was wrong. I knew it would eventually blow up in my face. But I couldn't stop. It was like I was addicted to the feeling, to the escape from my ordinary life, to the intensity of doing something so forbidden. Then one day, Michael's sister Laura came to visit from California. Laura and I had always been close, and she immediately sensed something was off. She pulled me aside one afternoon while Michael was at work and Robert was napping, and she asked me point blank if everything was okay in my marriage. I broke down. I didn't tell her everything, but I told her enough that I was unhappy, that I felt trapped, that I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. Laura listened without judgment and then said something that shook me to my core. "Sarah, whatever you're going through, you need to tell Michael. Secrets destroy families faster than any mistake ever could. That night, I decided Laura was right. I needed to confess, to come clean, to face the consequences of what I'd done. I waited until the kids were asleep and asked Michael if we could talk. We sat down in the living room, and I opened my mouth to tell him everything, but before I could get a word out, he grabbed my hands with this huge smile on his face. "Before you say anything," he said, "I have something to tell you. I got a promotion. It comes with a significant raise, and you know what that means? We can finally afford to hire full-time help for Dad. You won't have to take care of him anymore. You can go back to your job at the design firm if you want, or you can just take time for yourself. I know how hard this year has been on you, and I want to give you your life back." My heart shattered into a million pieces. Here was my husband, the man I had betrayed in the worst possible way, offering me freedom and thinking he was doing something wonderful. I couldn't tell him. I know that makes me a coward, but in that moment, looking at his hopeful, loving face, I couldn't destroy him. So I smiled and hugged him and told him that was wonderful news, and I buried the confession deep inside where it burned like acid. If you're invested in finding out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers, and every single one matters. The next day, I told Robert about Michael's promotion and that we'd be hiring help. He nodded slowly, and I could see the sadness in his eyes, but also relief. "This is for the best," he said. "What we've been doing, Sarah, it was always going to end badly. This gives us a way out." "I know," I whispered. "But Robert, I need you to know that whatever this was, it meant something to me. You made me feel things I thought I'd never feel again." He smiled sadly. "You gave an old, broken man a reason to keep living. I'll never regret that, even if I should." We agreed that day would be the end of our affair. We'd go back to being family, nothing more. The nurse, a kind, older woman named Patricia, started the following week, and I felt like I could finally breathe again. I threw myself into reconnecting with Michael, planning date nights, being more present with the kids, trying to rebuild what I had nearly destroyed. For about 2 months, everything seemed like it might actually be okay. I was learning to live with the guilt, to lock it away in a box in my mind where I didn't have to look at it every day. But then, Patricia called in sick on a Thursday morning, and I had to help Robert with his bath one more time. We were both professional about it, barely speaking, avoiding eye contact. I was washing his hair when he suddenly said, "I'm thinking about moving out." I stopped mid-motion. "What? Why?" "Because every time I see you with Michael, every time I watch you smile at him or kiss him goodnight, I feel like I'm being torn apart. I can't keep living in this house, Sarah. It's killing me." Before I could respond, we heard the front door open. Michael wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Panic flooded through me, even though we weren't doing anything wrong at that moment, but the guilt made everything feel suspicious. I quickly finished rinsing Robert's hair and was helping him out of the tub when Michael appeared in the doorway. "Patricia texted me she was sick, so I came home to help," he said, looking between us. "I've got it from here, honey. Why don't you go relax?" The way he looked at me in that moment, I couldn't tell if he suspected something or if I was just paranoid. I left the bathroom on shaky legs and went to the kitchen, my heart pounding. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Michael asked if we could talk. My blood ran cold. This was it. He knew. Somehow he had figured it out. We sat on the couch, and he took my hands in his, just like he had when he told me about the promotion. "Sarah," he began, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." I felt like I was going to be sick. "Okay," I managed to say. "Are you happy?" he asked. "In our marriage, in your life, are you happy?" I wasn't expecting that question. What? You seem different lately," he continued. "Distant, like there's something you're not telling me. If you're unhappy, if there's something wrong, I need you to tell me so we can fix it." This was my chance. I could tell him everything, confess the affair, clear my conscience, and face whatever came next. But as I looked into his eyes, full of love and concern and vulnerability, I couldn't do it. Call me a coward, call me a liar, call me whatever you want, but I couldn't break his heart. I'm happy, I lied. I've just been stressed with everything, but I'm happy, Michael. I love you. He smiled with such relief and pulled me into a hug, and I held on to him like he was a life raft in a stormy sea, even though I was the one who had created the storm. Please, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Click that subscribe button and help us hit 5,000 subscribers. Your support keeps this channel going and lets me share these real, raw stories. 3 weeks later, everything came crashing down in the way I'd always feared it would. Michael came home early from work again. But this time he was holding his phone with a strange expression on his face. "Sarah," he said quietly, "can you explain this?" He showed me the screen. It was a text message, but not to him. It was a screenshot of texts between Robert and me from months ago, before we'd ended things. They weren't explicitly sexual, but they were intimate enough, words of affection, phrases that no daughter-in-law should be saying to her father-in-law. My entire world stopped spinning. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. "Laura sent it to me," he said, his voice eerily calm. "Apparently, Dad accidentally texted her instead of you last week. Just one message, but it made her suspicious, so she went through his phone when he was sleeping and found all of this. She sent me the screenshots this morning." I felt like I was in a nightmare. Laura, who I had confided in, who knew I was struggling, had gone through Robert's phone and exposed everything to Michael. "How long?" Michael asked, still in that terrifyingly calm voice. "How long have you been having an affair with my father?" "It's over," I said desperately. "It's been over for months. Michael." "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "How long?" he repeated, louder this time. 2 months, I admitted. "It lasted about 2 months, and then we stopped when Patricia started." He laughed, but it was a bitter, broken sound. 2 months. "You had an affair with my disabled father for 2 months while I was at work, while I was paying the bills, while I was trusting you to take care of him." "I know," I sobbed. "I know it's unforgivable. I know I destroyed everything, but Michael, I love you. What happened with Robert, it wasn't about love. It was about—" "Don't!" he cut me off. "Don't try to explain it or rationalize it. You slept with my father, Sarah. My father. How am I supposed to ever get past that?" He walked out of the house, and I heard his car peel out of the driveway. I ran to Robert's room, and he was sitting on his bed with his face in his hands. "She told him," he said without looking up. "Laura told him everything." "Why did you text her?" I asked, not accusingly, just exhausted. "I didn't mean to," he said. "I was going to text you, to tell you that I was definitely moving out because I couldn't do this anymore, and I hit the wrong name. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I've ruined your life." "We ruined it together," I said, sinking onto the floor. That was 3 months ago. Michael filed for divorce 2 weeks after finding out. He's suing for full custody of the kids, and his lawyer is using the affair with Robert as evidence that I'm an unfit mother. Robert moved into an assisted living facility, and I haven't spoken to him since the day the truth came out. Laura won't return my calls. Michael's entire family has cut me off. The divorce proceedings are brutal. Michael's lawyer paints me as a predator who took advantage of a disabled old man, even though it wasn't like that. Even though Robert pursued me just as much as I pursued him. But that doesn't matter in court. What matters is that I betrayed my husband with his father, and there's no spinning that into something sympathetic. I'm probably going to lose my kids, at least partial custody. I'm going to lose my home. I've already lost my family and my reputation. Everyone in our neighborhood knows what happened. The other moms at my kids' school whisper about me. I'm the woman who slept with her father-in-law, and that's all I'll ever be to them. But here's what haunts me the most. I don't know if I regret it. I know I should. I know what I did was wrong on every level. But those 2 months with Robert were the first time in years I felt truly alive, truly seen, truly desired. Does that make me a terrible person? Probably. Does it mean I deserve to lose everything? Maybe. I don't know anymore. I don't know anything except that I made choices that destroyed multiple lives, including my own, and now I have to live with the consequences. Before I finish this story, I want to ask one more time. Please subscribe to this channel and help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Sharing my story hasn't been easy, but your support makes it worthwhile. So now I'm living in a small apartment, working again at the design firm, seeing my kids every other weekend when Michael allows it. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did, trying to figure out how to live with the guilt and the shame. And I'm alone, completely alone, because who wants to be friends with someone who did what I did? I lie awake at night, replaying everything, wondering what would have happened if I had told Michael the truth that night when I had the chance. Would we have worked through it? Would he have forgiven me? Or would it have ended the same way regardless? And Robert, I wonder about him too. Is he okay in that facility? Does he think about what we had? Does he regret it? Truly regret it? Or is he like me, caught in this confusing space between guilt and longing, between knowing something was wrong and still feeling like it mattered? The divorce will be final in 2 months. Michael has a new girlfriend already, someone from his office, and seeing them together on social media kills me every time, even though I have no right to be hurt. This is what I chose when I kissed Robert that first time. This is the consequence of every decision I made after that. But here's what I need to know from you, the people listening to this story. What would you have done in my place? Would you have resisted the connection with Robert from the beginning? Would you have told Michael the truth immediately? Or do you understand, even just a little bit, how someone could make the choices I made? Because I'm